In 1976, the United States Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty. Since then, 1,385 executions have taken place. Many would say killing this large number of people is a bad thing, but I'm here to tell you why it's not. Crime and its punishment are a major issue everywhere, including here in San Jose. It's a very controversial subject, and much of the population is opposed to it, but there's actually multiple ways it benefits the general population and society. The question about effectiveness will always remain, but it's proven that capital punishment is a deterrent for crime, which in turn makes society safer. Also, there's rarely mistakes made in the sentencing process, and with the death penalty, victims and victims' families get a sense of peace and justice. Deterrence is one of the positive effects of keeping the death penalty intact. When people are contemplating committing a crime, it's proven that capital punishment sways their opinion. With the idea of death as punishment, criminals are less likely to commit a crime. Therefore, it's benefiting society because it's preventing future crimes from occurring. Since felons rethink committing crimes, crime rates will go down. With fear in mind, they stop before committing the unacceptable act. This can prevent murders everywhere around the nation, including here in California. It can also prevent the other 41 federal capital offenses, such as kidnapping resulting in death, aircraft hijackings, espionage, treason, and other crimes linked to death. In San Jose alone, we have extremely high crime rates, so if capital punishment was used more often in California, these crime rates might go down. Nowadays, it takes a long time for someone to go through the entire process of capital punishment. If we obtained a speedier process with the convicted felons, even more crime could be prevented. Some people argue that deterrence does not play a role in crime rates. However, a professor of jurisprudence at Fordham University, who has studied the question of deterrence closely, wrote, "Even though statistical demonstrations are not conclusive, and perhaps cannot be, capital punishment is likely to deter more than other punishments because people fear death more than anything else." Because capital punishment is a social issue, there's no way to really tell if deterrence is making a difference, but data can be gathered and educated guesses can be made. Our justice system does have flaws, but there's very few mistakes when sentencing someone to capital punishment. This is because while on death row, you're entitled to a complete trial, which is very detailed and time-consuming. This is to ensure that no one is falsely accused and an innocent person is never killed. It is more costly to keep an inmate on death row rather than keep them as a regular prisoner. However, the extra cost is to ensure that people being sentenced are in fact guilty. Innocent people lose their lives to all kinds of accidents in society daily. So, it's not a reason to stop capital punishment from being used. From 1976, when the penalty was reinstated, to 2012, there was only 10 recorded possible mistakes. That number is a very, very small percent of the total, and it's even smaller, seeing as how the 10 recorded possible mistakes are only possible and not, in fact, true. Many people like to argue that it costs more to put the convict on death row than it is to keep him incarcerated for life. In the end, sentencing someone to life in prison without parole costs $1.5 million. It does cost more to keep someone on death row, but since we're already spending so much, why not continue the process? When criminals receive their punishment, it gives some peace of mind to the victims and their families. When a criminal commits a dishonorable act, they deserve to be penalized. Execution can bring peace to the loved ones of the victim. If you knew someone affected by a capital punishment or a federal capital offense, would you not want them to serve time for their punishment? Justice needs to be served not only for the victim, but for the principal of the situation. Because of the criminal's actions, the victim has no way to defend or stand up for his or herself. The punishment should fit the crime. In the federal capital offense cases, execution does fit the crime. By being allowed to live, criminals are being rewarded with life, while an innocent human being is no longer on this earth because of them. Even though most of society has a negative connotation regarding the death penalty, everyone should hear both the pros and cons. Just like most issues in life, there's always going to be good and bad aspects. As you can see, there's many positive things to capital punishment. It's not just random inhumane killings. There's a purpose. It's a preventative tactic, acceptable punishment, and form of justice being served to the victims and their friends and families. Since society has the highest interest in preventing murder, we should use the strongest punishment available to deter it. Thank you. Any questions?
So why'd you choose the death penalty as your topic?
I chose it because my dad is in law enforcement, and he is currently working on building a new jail for the county because of overcrowding and stuff. So I hear a lot of these sort of conversations at home from him, so I decided